Hey everyone, we're out here today just kind of bumming around a little bit and doing some reflection. We've been doing a lot of reflection the last couple of weeks since we got back from Nicaragua, and some of our posts have talked about that a little bit. Um, but the one of the things we're going to talk about today is in Mark chapter 7. It talks about traditions, and it's when some of the traditions that the Jews had, and kind of how Jesus reprimanded the Pharisees on how some of their traditions were human uh, traditions and versus biblical traditions and godly traditions, that sort of stuff. But we were out, and the last night we were in Nicaragua. We talked about that in our Devo time, and it was what are some traditions that we have that may not be biblical, and kind of the American dream came up. And in the area I live in, I mean, there's definitely plenty of opportunity to make a lot of money and live the American dream. You know, house, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, all that stuff. Um, and then, but it's also made us kind of reflect on a little bit how much the American dream has changed since people started coming to America. You know, when the first white folks started coming to America, the dream was to get away from religious persecution and have freedom. And then, when I was younger, when people talked about the American dream, it was freedom and being able to own a house, and just the little things we've talked about uh, earlier. You know, a house, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, all that stuff. But it seems like that's even changed more over the last few years, and I've even heard folks say, well, so and so bought a $60,000 vehicle, so I got to go buy an $80,000 vehicle. And it's like the American dream is almost becoming, from what I'm seeing, anyways, is being able to outdo your neighbor or whatever, and that's a whole another deal that we can get off topic on, I guess. But it kind of made us think and reflect about um, some of the stuff we saw in Nicaragua. I mean, there was kids running around barefoot, which is nobody. I mean, kids everywhere running around barefoot, but these kids were running around barefoot because they only had one pair of shoes and they wanted to keep those nice. So they lived 95% of their life, 98% of their life barefoot, and they spent so much time. And there was actually some of them had parasites and worms and stuff because they went barefoot so much, and they couldn't afford multiple pairs of shoes or whatnot to keep them from that, and they wanted to keep what they did have nice. Whereas us Americans, sometimes we're buying our second, third house or car or whatever, and we kind of just treat the other stuff like garbage almost. I mean, I've seen people that have cars, they have 2 or 3 cars, and they just basically trash their vehicles, you know, and go out there and they think it's fun, it's cool or whatever to go do whatever their vehicles and tear it up and break it and spend all their and that vehicle could have been a blessing to somebody else. If you don't want it, that's fine. If you I'm not saying nice things aren't fine. I mean, like, the next time I buy a vehicle, I'm shooting for one with heated seats. All right, I spent a lot of time driving around, and the few vehicles I've ridden in with heated seats, that's nice on my back. So, really, there's nothing against having nice things. It's just being a good steward of the things you have. And when it's time to replace that or whatever else, maybe you could pass it on to somebody that might be less fortunate than you are. Maybe you could help them out. Being a good steward of your resources. And our resources are time and money, talents. Those things are all resources that God has given us to be a steward of. I mean, in the end, it's all God's. He's giving us these things to be a steward of and see how we use the skills and the resources he's blessed us with. And So it just kind of makes a person think, we have all this stuff and we have so much you know, excess resources here that could go someplace else, even other parts of our country, even, and or other countries or wherever they may be that they're less fortunate than us that may be struggling. I mean, there is what do American kids do when they have 3 days off of school here? They sit around the house and play video games or say, "Oh, I'm bored," and this, that, and the other. And in Nicaragua, there's a 6, 7-year-old boy standing outside the grocery store on his 3 days off school to carry groceries out for tips because he was trying to help his family make some extra money. Um, so these are all things that we kind of saw when we were down there. I mean, there was some folks that were living in basically some wood poles wrapped with plastic. That was their house. That was all they had. And they cooked over an open fire rice and beans every meal. Um, so those are all things that, a little perspective switched. I'm not saying don't go have fun, don't have a nice vehicle or a nice house or whatever else, but maybe we should think, well, just because so-and-so got a $60,000 vehicle, do we need to get rid of our vehicle? Is it okay? Is it a good vehicle, Or if we do feel we need to get rid of that vehicle, is there some way we can bless somebody else with that? With our, the access we have, the access resources we have, whether it's our time, our money, our talents, or whatever else. I mean, it's one of the things I live here where I do, because I do have some good friends that have some resources that they have been able to bless me with, and I hope I can pass that on to other folks, and even give them in return. But this last the perspective, I guess, and the reflection that we've had the last few weeks is how can we bless others, with our the excess resources that we have versus just wasting it or tearing it up or whatever else. So that's what we've been kind of bumming around today, and that was our victory moment. So